back, relax, and maybe get yourself a snack. Me and you gonna have a little chat about books. Hi guys! So one of the questions that I most often get asked is, who are your favourite authors in fantasy? And this is really hard because there are loads and loads and loads and loads of authors that I absolutely love. But I've decided I'm going to come up with a list of male and female authors to tell you guys who are my favourites currently. It may change, it may all change very soon, who knows. Currently, my favourite authors in fantasy and science fiction. Let's get started. This is going to be my favourite female authors in fantasy and science fiction. Not in any real particular order, although I do have my favourite overall. The first one on my list is Ursula Le Guin. I've read a couple of her books now, most of them in the Hainish cycle, and I absolutely think she is a queen of science fiction. I have not read another woman in science fiction who I think is better than her yet, although please do leave me recommendations. But I absolutely just think she is so good at what she does. She does original science fiction. It's always approachable and interesting. It's always very different from stuff I've read before, and I just think she explores some really cool themes of gender and what it means to be human as well. So really love her, and I'll put links to all the reviews of her books that I've done below, and the same with all these other authors, so you can check out more of their work and what I think of them if you are interested below. The next one on my list is Sarah Gailey. I've actually only read one of her books, but I wanted to include her because it was so good, and in fact it was only a novella, and that was River of Teeth, which is such a wonderful novella. I loved it so much. I read it as a buddy read and we chatted about it, me and Eleanor, and we had a great time. It was just so interesting, and she was one of the first people that I had read who wrote about a completely genderless character, and that was really cool to see, and I absolutely loved that. So well worth reading River of Teeth, just generally well worth checking her out as an author. Next on my list is J.B. Jones. She's still on here even though I've again still only read one of her books, but I just remember absolutely loving it. So this coming year I need to rectify this and read some more of her work. She's actually now back on Twitter. She sort of took a break of a couple of years in between writing. She's back now. She's on Twitter and she's got a Patreon and she's writing again, and she's writing the final book in her 5-book series, I think. So I'm really excited about that, and I definitely want to get back to reading the series and enjoy it. I have done a review of this. The first one's called A Cavern of Black Ice, and I will hopefully be reading the rest, so definitely worth checking out my review of the first, and hopefully we will get the final ones in the series, so that's really exciting too. Next on my list is Becky Chambers, who could not be on this list. She is a science fiction author who writes really nice sci-fi. That sounds silly to say, but genuinely she is one of the nicest authors and one of the nicest writers that I've read about, because she writes books that are revolutionary in how kind they are. There doesn't have to be a horrible big world war conflict for a book to be good. It can actually be a more internal, small conflict, and it can debate lots of current issues. And I think that she does that incredibly well in her books, and I really rate her for doing that. Again, this is also a thing that one of my other authors does, and that is Sean Ann Maguire. Sean Ann Maguire is, again, a fantastic author. I haven't read too much of her work. I've read like 4 of her novellas, I think, but 3 of those are the Wayward Children ones, which is the series of hers I'd most recommend, and that series again really deals with modern topics, big topics that are being talked about today, but in fantasy settings. Beautifully written books, very insightful and interesting, but very much fantasy reads as well. Next on my list I have Marie Brennan, who is a fantastic author who I absolutely love. She writes the Lady Trent series, and she writes a couple of other series that I do need to get to and try. But yeah, the Lady Trent series is one of my all-time favourite series. It's so good, and it's filled with a wonderful dragon naturalist who goes around and studies dragons in a Regency period England, and is just badass and wonderful and so all about ladies, and I love that so much. It's such a good series. Next on my list is Jodie Taylor, who is the author of the Chronicles of St. Mary's series, and she is again so witty and funny. I've never met her or anything, but from reading her books, I can just tell that she's got one of those really fun sense of humours, because all of her characters have it, and it shines through these characters on the page, and you just get a real sense of fun and kinship and emotion and love and wit and humour all throughout the books, and it's just great escapism. It's so fun to read her stories because you just feel immersed in the world, you just feel like you can get into the heads of the people and enjoy it, and I love that. Next on my list is another really fun author, and that is GAIL CARRIGER, who writes mostly sort of steampunk-ish era books, and I love steampunk and I think she does it really, really well. She's all about frills and petticoats, and again quite humorous in tone, and she's just really into embracing modern ideas in her books. So there are characters who are gay and there are characters who are cross-dressing and doing different things, and she does it really, really well, and I love that about her as well. She's just fantastic as an author. Next on my list is an author who just embraces what it is to be you in whatever flawed state that is, and that is Emma Newman. She writes characters who are flawed and complex and emotional and intellectual and all sorts of wonderful things. So all of her characters feel fleshed out and developed. They feel like they come from real fantasy worlds. The world feels emotional, the characters feel emotional. You really get a sense of just being in the headspace of these characters when you're reading her books, and I think she does it so, so well in all of her stories that I've read so far. I just love her. I just think she's great. She also hosts the Tea and Jeopardy podcast, which I have listened to quite a lot of episodes from, and she interviews different authors there. It's a free podcast, so definitely worth checking that one out, and I love that as well. I just think she is so great as a person and excellent as a writer, which is fabulous all round. So yeah, she is definitely one of my all-time favourites, but my all-time favourite female writer in fantasy is the one and only Queen Robin Hobb, of course, because Robin Hobb is fantastic and I absolutely adore her. Her series, The Realm of the Elderlings, is one of my, if not my all-time favourite series. I think the only one that's challenging it is my top male writer, who I'll tell you about in my other video. Genuinely, I think The Realm of the Elderlings is one of my absolute all-time favourite series, if not the one. So Robin Hobb does complicated characters. She gets into their mindsets. She really unpacks the emotion. She throws them into horrible situations. She does a fully fleshed out fantasy world. She just does it all. Robin Hobb does it all. She has fantastic plot twists that you don't see coming. She has really emotional moments, really sad moments, really happy moments, really wonderful magic that is super cool, and it's just mind-blowingly good. So she's definitely my top of the ladies, but I mean they're all exceptionally good, and these are just my top right now. I'd love to hear who yours are, so do leave me your comments, and don't forget that I have done reviews for pretty much all of their books, so I'll link them below as well, and you can go find out more about each of their series if you want to. Yeah, let me know who your favourites are and whether you've read any of these, and I will see you all very soon in my next video. Thank you for watching, bye!
Thank you for watching my video today. Go pick up a book, then come back and chat with me again.